Are you lost in the chaotic whirlwind of day-to-day busyness? Do you yearn for a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in your life? Welcome to Be You, Your Story, Your Purpose, the podcast dedicated to empowering women on their journey of self-discovery and finding their true purpose through their own story. I'm your host, Brenda Simmons. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. I am so excited to have my guest today. Her name is Heather Waegner. She is a wife and a mom of 4 kids, and she's a photographer of over 20 years. The best thing about Heather is she is such a fun person, and I have so enjoyed the times that we are together. She is so good at helping people to understand and to show what is unique about them in front of a camera, which is an amazing feat. Her favorite part of photography is that she loves to have fun. And you're going to see that not only in how she explains things and how she talks and the vocabulary that she uses. And like me, she likes to laugh. So I expect this to be a really, really fun discussion. So welcome, Heather, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Should be fun.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your photography business.
Okay, well, right now I specialize in headshots and personal branding photography. So I really love capturing people and showing off their uniqueness. So basically showing off what makes them unique and different. And I actually really love the challenge of people who hate being in front of a camera. It's like, you don't like being in front of a camera? All right, challenge accepted. Let's do this, and I'm gonna make you have a fun time. Like, I don't know why that makes me like giddy, but I love it.
So a branding photographer is pretty unique itself. So I think usually when people think about photographers, they think about the family photos and all of that stuff. So how did you transition, or how did you get into the brand photography? And really, what does that mean? What do you do with brand photography?
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, I've been doing this for like over 20 years. That makes me feel really old, but I guess I am, so I'll just embrace it. So when I first started out, I was a newlywed, so I did all the weddings, right? And I was like, this is my phase of life. I'm a wedding photographer. And then we started having babies, and I was like, I love babies. I'm going to do all the baby photos, and and gradually I just sort of like morphed with what I was doing in my life. And then I took a little break from photography for a little bit. I was like burned out. I had 2 little girls. My husband had some mental health issues and he wasn't able to work. And so I was like, oh, I guess I need to do my photography again. If I want to have this life that I've like wanted and created in my life, I'm going to like need to do something. And I didn't want to do the weddings and all of that. And so I decided to work on my business. And as I was doing that, I realized there was such a need for business photography and headshots. And I've always loved people, like one-on-one interactions with people. That's kind of just always been my jam ever since I went to school for photography. Like my final projects were all headshots or, close-up portraits. And so it's kind of what I love to do. So I don't know, that was a crazy long story, but so I typically will do headshots or branding, personal branding, not like products and things like that. I don't typically do that. I can, but I miss that interaction piece with the people. So I really just love interacting with people and getting to know them and showing off their personalities. That's kind of where I shine.
Okay, so how do you do that? Especially if you've got somebody who is like totally nervous and they don't know how to smile, right? And like I've talked with a lot of people who are like, I can't smile on command. My husband is like this, right? So how do you really find what is unique? Because a lot of times you're probably just meeting them, right? And then
Yeah.
how do you bring that out?
So it kind of goes back to personality typing and Clifton strengths and all of that, which I totally am obsessed with. And I know you are like into that stuff too. So that like instantly we connected on that.
Right.
But in my Clifton strengths, I have my top 5. I don't know if people know about it, but you take a test and it tells you like your top 5 strengths. And mine are woo. That's my number 1, which is winning people over. So I just love getting to know new people and finding out all about them. And just, it's like I said, it's kind of a challenge for me to like, win people over and get them to like me. So that's my number one strength. Second is empathy. So I feel this connection with people because of that empathy. And communication is my third. So I'm able to, talk to them and get them to open up. Like I get all the time, like people will tell me things. They're like, I don't really know why I just told you that. Or I don't really usually tell people this, but every single time, like, I don't know, it's my superpower. But I believe it has a lot to do with those Clifton strengths. As I've learned more about those, I realized that, yes, that is a unique gift that I have. I just assumed everybody can do that, right? But you can't. My fourth one is positivity. So just I try and make everything fun and see the bright side. And then my fifth one is activator. So I like to get things done. Anyway, so those, I feel like my Clifton strengths, my Enneagram, my energy type, like all the things that I'm obsessed with, they really do hone in and help me like see my powers on helping people really open up and feel comfortable in front of the camera. Plus, like I just make people fake laugh. That's really my trick. It's like, it's lame, but or I just look ridiculous. Like I have also a really great power of being ridiculously embarrassing. And for some reason, it just makes other people feel like they can also be ridiculously embarrassing too. So
Well, because you
know
make
all my
people
secrets.
comfortable, right? Exactly. So, in other words, you're just being you, right?
Basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
So, okay, so we are going to geek out, and I'm so excited.
Yay.
Okay, because I love personality tests. And really, when I got into them, I was dealing with deep depression. And I took this 16 personalities test one day and that one's kind of been a little bit disputed, and I can understand why.
Yeah.
However, for me at the time, it was pivotal. And like you just said, you do something and you don't realize that it's unique because it's such a part of you that, of course, everybody is the same way. But the reality is they're not, right?
Mhm.
And so um, I forgot which one I am. It's the entertainer, ESFP. That's what it is. So in a 16
That's the
person,
one I test as an entertainer all the time too.
do you? Yeah. And so what was interesting is I was able to take that and go, okay, I've got some really cool things about me. Like it was the first time that I was, in like 5 years that I was like, okay, maybe I am okay, and it gave me this ray of light. And so it was interesting because I've talked to many people. What was pivotal in helping you to get out of depression? And for me, it was that personality test because I saw something good in myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that started really an obsession. Like, I'm
Really is.
totally okay calling it an obsession because if there's a test, I'm going to take it. And I'm like, oh, well, and it's funny because you had talked in the information that you filled out for me that you like to do the same thing. So I want to talk about dressing your truth for a second.
Okay.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Carol Tuttle, she developed an energy typing for that is correlated to how you then should dress yourself, right? And it's really fascinating. I mean, she takes into like tones and different colors, and it's super cool. But what's amazing is she can tell just by looking at you what type you are. And so okay, so tell us what you are and tell us what you think about that. We're just gonna kind of go through different tests
Yeah.
because I
So
think it's super fun.
I got introduced to that and through the Child Whisperer, the book. So it's basically the energy
Mhm.
types, but for your kids.
Yeah.
And so as I was reading that, I was like, okay, I'm definitely a one. And the person that introduced it to me was like, oh yeah, you're totally a one. You're so fun and bubbly and all the things. And so I was like, yeah, I'm a one. And I embraced that one so hard. And one is like the bright colors and the fun and like cutesy little things like designs. So there was a lot of the type one that I was like, it like super rubbed me wrong. And it was almost irritating when I'd watch the videos about the type one. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I mean, I'm fun and all of that. And I'm spontaneous and I like to be free and all, but it rubbed me so like raw. I was like, that's so annoying. I'm not that. And anyway, So I was bound and determined, and Carol did a free profiling thing online, and so she typed me personally, and she told me I was a type 3, and I was like, what? All this time I had thought, and so then I went back and like reassessed my entire life, right? Here I am thinking my brand colors were bright and fun and all the things, and it was just like there was something a little bit off. And when I settled into being a type 3, it was like my whole world just made so much more sense. Like I have the energy, but it's more of a push energy. It's that activator part of my personality, right? It's there, and but anyway, so it was interesting to have that because it definitely like made me rethink. Not that somebody telling me what type I am really actually matters, but it just like opened up this like aha moment, right? Where I was like, oh, all of those things that I was feeling and irritated by, it was because I'm not that person. I'm trying to put myself into this position where I'm like, I'm this one way, but I'm really not. And then now I've just settled into this type 3 and I'm like, oh yeah, this is totally who I am. So it's kind of it's freeing, but then also some people feel like it's putting you in a box, right? To like type you as a personality, but I don't know. I
Well, and
feel
I think that's the key. You have to take them
eye-opening.
with, a grain of salt, right? And
Mhm.
look at it more in the era of curiosity. I had a similar experience. I thought for years I was a type 4, which is very intense, and serious.
Black
And
and
and I
white thinking,
honestly
very
think that I
critical.
did it when I was still depressed. And so I think that's something else to consider too, is
Mhm.
you have to go back and retake these because sometimes we're in a stage of life where our real personality isn't showing.
Yeah,
So I retyped myself and I did it myself, and realized I was a 1. And I'm like,
it's more
and
like it.
I had the same experience. Like I was like, oh, this is so freeing. Like I like absolutely I'm a 1, right? More the bright and the colorful and bubbly and yeah,
Yeah.
that's totally me. So that was super fun. Okay. You mentioned Clifton's strengths. And so I think let's go into this one a little bit deeper because Clifton's strengths is so it's a test where there's like what, 32 different strengths and
34,
it
yeah.
34. Okay. It
Yeah.
lists them in order of strongest to weakest. So you've got, say your 5 again, your top 5.
So I have woo, empathy, communication, positivity, and activator.
Okay, so my top 5 are includer, arranger, woo. So I thought that was fun that we have the same there. Harmony and empathy. So it's really fun when you get together with another person that has similar strengths as you. Also, I think it's really interesting what your weaknesses are too. So do you remember what some of your lower
Oh
ones
gosh,
are?
my lower ones are more like the all of the organized and structured and planning kind of things. Like that's just not my strength.
So how has knowing your strengths and your weaknesses played out in your life? Like, how do you use those to your benefit?
Um, so a lot of times people will try and work on the things that they're not good at, but I just say, let's just focus on what I'm good at and find somebody else to do the things that I'm not good at. So that's kind of where I'm at in my business right now, looking for like those people that are those who that can help me become better by doing the thing that they're super good at. And then I don't have to stress about it and be like, why am I so bad at all of this organizing and planning and structure? Like, I should just embrace who I am and let somebody else who is that organized structure person thrive in what they do. So I think that's really neat understanding that, like instead of beating yourself up for not being a certain way, just hey, look how cool I am. Look at these strengths that I do have. Like sometimes I'll look at it and be like, holy crap, I'm freaking awesome. Like how how cool am I that all of these are like you'll read through it and they give you a very like in-depth specialized based on your strengths and where they fit your top 5. It's a different like description for you personally. Like it's really cool that they do that. Anyway, so I read that. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good. But obviously other people also have amazing strengths that if they just embrace those, they can feel so much more like settled in their own power instead of trying to be something that you're not, you know?
I think there's an acceptance of, yeah, I don't have to be everything. I don't have to be strong in everything. Like one of my lowest is competition. And and it was so interesting because will I'll so I was when I took the test, I was in a different brokerage in my real estate business. And they were very much into these big competitions and we pit each other against, one against each other. And I'd start out really well, and then I would tank every single time. And I took this and I was like, oh, well, that's why, because I'm just not competitive. So it was nice because I was able to accept, okay, this is why, I tend to quote unquote fail at competitions, but then be okay with that. Like, okay, there are a lot of other great things that I can do. So I really love, you know, how you say that you allow other people to shine where they shine. You don't have to shine everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's super cool. All right. You were telling me about Enneagram, and I honestly, I am not as familiar with this one. I actually
Oh,
went
come on.
back
This is
last
the
night
trending
and I
one right
took the test.
now.
It's not.
It's
Yeah.
it's the cool one to know about.
Okay, so explain to everybody what the Enneagram is.
So the Enneagram has 9 different types, and it's similar, I feel like, in the 16 personalities a little bit. I feel like a lot of them have different crossovers. Like
Yeah,
part
they
of me
do.
wants to do like a whole thesis on how the different personality types and different things like intermix and how they're connected, and but I'm not going to do that because that's too much work. But so the Enneagram, the 9 different types, you have your main like core desire, and then you have, anyway, one on either side. So like I'm a 6, and you can have a wing 5 or a wing 7. So the numbers that are next to you are corresponding. And then in growth, you go a certain direction, and in stress, you go a different direction. And so it's kind of cool to see, I don't know, just the different reasons behind why people do the things that they do in that one. I really like that. Plus, the more and more you grow, there's like a whole system of like growth and, sabotage of yourself. The more you grow, the more you become like a holistic person. And it's really neat. So that one, I also had a crisis on myself because I thought I'm a 7 because that's the fun. And so then I was like, wait a minute. If I'm not a type 1, then maybe I'm not a type 7. Anyway, it like took me down this whole rabbit hole, and I tried the whole, let me try an 8 Enneagram, and that kind of, I sat with that for a minute, and then there was always this like nagging of me, like, yeah, but you have so much like anxiety and craziness. Like there's got to be some 6 in there. So I thought I was a 7-wing 6. But now I've just settled into the fact that I'm a 6. I own the fact that I have anxiety, a lot of anxiety, and I worry about a lot of things. And I think I wanted to push that part of myself down and like pretend that that wasn't really a thing. But as I was actually giving a talk about this the other day, and I was like, I got to know what I am if I'm going to teach about this. So I really felt like, okay, let me just sit with the idea that maybe I am a 6, and that let's just see how that feels, like being experimenting with it, being curious, and then reading about it, knowing that I have that wing 7, which is that fun part of me that comes out. But anyway, it's really neat. Like you can go down such rabbit holes with this stuff and just like find so much stuff. But I think with the Enneagram, it's really cool. There's a lot of tests, but you can't really take those like as gospel because I don't know, you really just have to like learn about the different types, learn about how you, and just kind of settle in. And it's a process. Like finding who you are is a process. It takes a while. Like you, like when I first found out about stuff, I was in a different place. I was in like crisis mode. And so I think I was dealing with that by like being like, I'm just going to forget about life and just have fun. And, like I think sometimes that plays into it. So
Hmm.
just owning that in different phases of your life, it takes a while to figure out who you are, and develop your personality.
Well, and I also think it depends on what kind of trauma you've had in your life. I've got a good friend who she tested a certain way on her Clifton strengths. And it was interesting because once she processed all, the trauma from her childhood that she had gone through and had gone through a forgiveness phase, where she was forgiving everybody for trauma and really truly healed, she went back and tested and totally different strengths came up. Totally
Really?
different. And so she was super curious about that and she thought, well, why did this happen? And she learned that when you are dealing with trauma or something like that, that the strengths that you need to overcome that or to deal with it, those are the ones that are going to come forward. Once you've processed all that and you're in a different phase of life, different strengths are going to come forward. So you're right. It really is. You have to be curious all the time and you have to kind of, go back to it. Now, that's not to say that just because you test in something, you are that, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I've been really into I've thought a lot about this podcast and what I'm trying to accomplish, and I'm realizing that it's really about resiliency, right? And so, how do you think um, personality tests and just understanding a little bit more about yourself helps you to be more resilient?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I feel like understanding who you are and knowing what your strengths are help you, I don't know, to just look at life and things and challenges in a different way. Like, okay, this is how I can handle this, and this is how I process this, and it makes sense of like some of the craziness that you've been through in your life, right? So you're like, okay,
Mhm.
I can see why I acted like that because of this is how I am. Um, I feel like the process of just finding out who you are, and I think there's part of it is finding out who you are, but then there's also like, who do you want to be? And you don't have to let these personality tests dictate who you are. I think it helps enlighten who you are. But there was a time in my life where I was so shy. I was like, I think there was some trauma from moving and just like being, the new person. And I was really shy. And I thought that's just who I was and how I was going to have to be. And I had this young women's leader who told me, she's like, I used to be really shy too. And she was the most outgoing, like talkative person. She's from Brazil. And she just was so much energy and so much fun. And I was like, oh my gosh, if she thought she was shy and she just decided, she said, I just decided one day that I didn't want to be shy anymore. And so I decided not to. And I was like, you can just do that. And I know that there's some certain things that make it easier for some people than not, but I was so shy. I never talked in school. I never did anything. And from that moment, I was like, I get to decide who I want to be. I get to decide how I want to show up in the world. And so I think that was really a turning point for me to overcome some of that like trauma and adversity and all of that just to I can choose. And I think some of our strengths play into that for sure, but we are not destined or determined by, you know, our circumstances or who we are. Like I think that makes us stronger, the things that we go through, and then understanding why we are the way we are just is like so helpful to navigate some of those craziness. I don't know. That was like
Absolutely.
a roundabout little. Uh,
No, I loved your story. How old were you when you
I must have
discovered the
been 12 or
podcast?
13-ish.
Yeah. And
Uh,
was that hard for you to switch it?
you know, yes and no, but it also like, I don't know, it was almost just like permission to
Mhm.
like be able to do that. Like I had been given this label of shy for so long and like people thought I was deaf. Like I had a babysitter who thought maybe I was like not talking because I was deaf and she was like trying to sign to me because I was just so shy. I don't know. So like I
Awkward.
just had that label for so long and I was in new situations for moving and different things and so like I just like kind of went into a shell and it was like liberating, I guess. So I don't know if I can't really remember if it was like a light bulb and just I automatically shifted. I think it did take some time, but just having that in my mind, like I get to decide how I want to show up and I have that power inside of me to decide who it is that I want to be. So that was
And
really,
what's cool is everybody has that power.
yes. Yeah.
Yes.
It's really
Every
hard
single
to
one.
teach that to teenagers, though, I've decided. Like,
Ooh, go into
as
that. So
much.
how do you try to do that?
I actually don't know. I'm really in the thick of it right now. So, I just try not to like poke the bear. I try and show him example and tell him things, but they just sometimes don't. They're not in the place where they're really receptive, right? So, just example is the best I can do, even though I feel like I just want to spew out all this stuff that I know, but they don't really want to hear it. So, I don't know.
No, they don't. And I've learned from experience that if you do, they just reject you anyway.
So much harder.
It's so much. I know. I know. Although I can say I have had kids come back to me later and go, okay, what you taught was really true. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, check back with me in like 5 years when I'm over this phase with my older boys, and we'll see how
Yeah.
I'm feeling about it. But you know,
That's awesome. Okay, so how do you how do you find joy? Because I feel like you've got that positivity naturally.
mhm.
But, when you're feeling down, what do you do to lift yourself back up and find joy again?
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things. Like I when I thought I was a type one, I was like, I'm supposed to be like happy all the time and joy and all the things, and I didn't always feel that. Like I am very good at being around people. Like people are where I get my energy, right? So extrovert for sure. And I'll go and I'll be around people and I'll have so much fun, and then I'll come home and I'm just like, ugh. Not that I'm drained, but it's just like that energy is gone, and so I don't know. So for me, it's being around people. When I tend to like recluse and just be in my own world, or if I don't have interactions with people, I do tend to get a little bit down. But it's also, as I've gotten older, I've realized too that there's like the fun, exciting part of joy, but then there's also just like that peaceful kind of joy. And I'm really learning to settle into some of that like quietness and reflectiveness. And so that's been a new thing for me. Just so I find joy mostly with people, but then also, sometimes in the quiet.
Yeah. Um, when I've been around you, you have one word you say a lot.
I know I haven't even dropped it yet.
I know. I'm so surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, I need you to explain what this word and why you use it all the time.
All right. So I love to say the word kick awesome. I've been trying for like 20 or 30 years, probably 30 years. That means I'm really old, but to get this to become a mainstream word, kick awesome. It's all one word. It's not hyphenated. It's just kick awesome. So I was like raised very like, strict. Swearing was off limits. I felt very, you know, evil if I were to swear. But I loved the idea of like kick ass. Like that just sounded
Yeah.
cool, but I was like not comfortable saying kick ass. And so I decided that kick A actually meant awesome. So anytime I'm in kick A, and then it was like, no, it's kick awesome. And so anyway, I've tried for years. I've had musicians, I've emailed them, will you say the word kick awesome on stage? And
Nuh-uh.
yes, they have. Um, but it doesn't really catch on. So anyway, that's where it came from. But I do use it in my tagline. I love making people feel kick awesome, creating kick awesome images, that kind of thing. I don't probably use it as much though in my actual daily talk, but I love the word. I think it's kick awesome.
It is a kick-ass word. Just and when I first heard you say that, I just busted up laughing. It was like, that is so perfect. Like it is a perfect word.
It really is. Let's get it going.
I love it. Okay, so everybody who's listening to this, it is your charge to use the kick awesome word
Yeah,
wherever you can.
wherever
So
you can. It's just
yes,
just amazing.
I'm even going to put this in the title of my show. So
I love it. So good.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so what are some words of advice that you can give people that you have learned along your journey?
Oh man, I think just being being you, embracing your uniqueness, right? Like figuring out who you are and just being okay with that. And I know teenage years, it's hard because we want to just like fit in and do all the things. And so I get that. And even, I don't know, I never really felt like I fit in the world anyway. And maybe that's what made me feel so like passionate about being different and unique. It was like, well, if I can't be like all the like pretty girls, I'm just gonna be different. I'm gonna be me. And I think maybe that helped me in the long run, just like be okay with being who I am. So I feel like that does come a little bit more natural to me, but anybody anybody can do it. You don't have to worry so much about what other people think of you. And that's easier said than done. Like I still, let's be real, everybody worries about it. I worry about how people are going to see this and think about me or whatever. Like it's just part of our nature, but just owning who you are and embracing it and realizing there's nothing wrong with you, but you just that's who you are and love yourself for who you are and be okay with being kick awesome.
And I think that's another reason why I would geek out so much on the personality test, because it is a form of self-acceptance, like, oh, and it's a way to see, oh, these are the actual good things about me, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, when you embrace that, it is powerful,
Yeah.
powerful. Okay, so I want to direct people to your website and all the things that you do. So, can you tell people where to find you online?
Yeah. So my website is just heatherwagner.com, but we spell our name unique because I mean I'm just unique, right? So it's Waegner. Um, so if you type in just regular Heather Wagner, it'll take you to some other photographer, and that's fine. She's probably great too, but make sure you type that extra E in there. And if you go to my website, you can kind of poke around and see what I do and see, how it resonates with you. But I'd love to just have a conversation with you if you're interested in like trying to figure out how, I've got actually a branding guide that will help you kind of walk through some of this and help you figure out some of your brand strengths and different things like that in your branding since, I'd work on personal branding and so a lot of people they are their brand. And so as they figure out who they are, we can showcase that in their images. And so I have a guide that will kind of walk you through that. So you can sign up for that. Or like I said, I'd love to just do a one-on-one consultation with anybody and just mention that you heard about me with Brenda and we'll get you hooked up. So
Awesome. Okay, I'm curious. Did you guys put the E in your name, or has it
um,
been there for years?
it's my husband's dad put it in. So he actually immigrated
Really?
from Germany when he was a teenager, and they had the little umlauts over the A. And so in his mind, he thought, well, if I put the E here, that will help them say it correctly. But we just say Wagner, but we just spell it wrong.
Spell
So
it
I
differently.
my own website, like who has the chance to actually have their name? If you have a regular old name, it's harder to get your website. So
True that. I couldn't get one for my name. It's too common, right? So, okay, so we're bringing this full circle, and I'm grateful that we're coming back to your business and how you help people, and I hope that those who are listening can see that, the way in which you have approached your own journey and your own self-discovery is very much in tune with your business and how you then help other people do the same thing, right?
yeah, yeah, I love it. I get fulfilled. It's part of my purpose, right? To help people feel good about themselves and show that off so that they can feel confident. I love doing that.
Awesome. I love that. So I will put all of your links in the show notes. And I'm just so grateful that you're able to come here, Heather, and we can
Fun.
have this kick awesome conversation. And right.
I love it.
And yeah, thank you so much. This has been great.
Yeah, thanks.
I really, really love Heather's word, kick awesome. And I love how she came by it, and I love the energy of it. And I agree, I think that we should make this a mainstream word. So let's go and do that. So that that would be super awesome. But really, more than that, I love the implication of being kick awesome is really just being you. Because nobody else can be as kick awesome as you are at being you. Everybody else can be kick awesome at being themselves, but you are the only one that can be you. And that is truly, truly beautiful. And I know from experience that when we embrace that essence of who we are, like really, truly who we are, not the trauma person, not the, I'm shy person, not the label person or the experienced person, but really who we truly are. I think we are all truly kick awesome. So I hope that you have found joy in this episode. It's been a little bit lighter energy than what I've had recently, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm just grateful for the fun that Heather brings to those around her, and that it is a joy to be around her. And I think that there are lots of people like that. So go out and find them because they are well worth spending time with. I hope you found some benefit in this. Remember, we are on Apple and Spotify and everywhere that podcasts are, as well as on YouTube. I've got the video on YouTube as well as Spotify, and so check out the video and share with us what you think. I love reading the comments on whatever platform that you're on. With that, take care, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.
Celebrate your dreams, let them take flight, for you are a star, shining bright in every step you take. Let your light glow, being you is the greatest way to